practice of, let's say, I keep using air quotes, witchcraft, how does one practice it?
Well, I mean, really, it's not. Some are a lot more probably vigilant than I myself am. But you would normally have an altar set up in your house.
Okay.
It could be to a certain deity. It may be to many deities. You may have many altars.
Mm-hmm.
But on the altar, normally you will have a place
That's
for
much like
offerings.
a Hindu temple.
Probably,
Okay.
yeah. I've never actually been into a Hindu
Okay.
temple, but probably. And it's almost like if you would go into a Christian church because you have an altar. And usually,
Many icons, right?
right. And you would find icons on a witch's altar. You would normally find an offering bowl where anything could be put in there, from incense to flowers to mead
Mm-hmm.
or anything. I mean,
Sure.
there may be anything in that offering bowl. There's also sometimes an offering cup, and that could consist of wine or mead or orange juice.
Okay.
So most witches would have at least one altar in their home. You'd probably find a lot of crystals all throughout the home. Crystals, there's so many different ones and there's so many different uses. But for a simple rundown, it's like rose-colored things are love. Black stones are for protection,
Mm-hmm.
to absorb negativity, to throw the negativity back.
Okay.
Blue is usually for like self-love, self-healing kind of thing, and green is money.
Mm.
So, yeah, and so pretty much everybody has different stones, and different stones too are associated with different areas. The chakras, which you're probably familiar
Sure.
with, you're probably more familiar with than I am. But and so you want to have all those stones around to try to keep you feeling good
Mm-hmm.
and keep you safe and keep your chakras aligned. If
So
you,
really, what you're talking about is energy.
yeah,
You're talking about the energy flow.
right,
Okay, great.
right. And I mean, some people have certain different things that they put maybe at their front door for protection. And it can be protection against uh, spiritual attacks as well
Mm-hmm.
as actual physical attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I mean, it all depends, like, as we've been talking about, intention. Um, but yeah, and you'd probably find a really nice selection of herbs in a witch's house.
Okay.
I have quite a few, probably more than uh, a lot of people would, especially people like myself who don't really cook. But I, I have the herbs for different occasions, and and a lot of people, of course, would have a garden, an
Mm-hmm.
herb garden.
Nothing artificial, I'm assuming.
No, well, that's actually artificial plants and stuff too. Are in the feng shui,
Okay.
um,
Yes.
are not good. They If you read any kind of like how to do feng shui,
Mm-hmm.
the plants are fake plants are not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, spiked plants, whether real or fake,
Ah.
are not appropriate to have.
Okay. So you want everything in your house to be as natural as possible,
Right.
to be as connected to nature. Perhaps you'll have to educate me, Joyce. Perhaps as minimalistic as possible, not an over display of being ostentatious. A whole lot of material nonsense.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Really minimalist, and you'll find. I mean, sure, there's some rich pagans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any. I think a lot of times, though, people will go, well, if you're a witch and you can do this and you can do that, why aren't you? Why aren't you
Mm-hmm.
a mega millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, that's something, it doesn't always mean that you're happy to be a mega millionaire. I mean,
Well, of course.
there's many, many wealthy people that have committed suicide, that kind of thing.
Well, sure. And then what we always try to help people understand is most people don't understand the difference between what they want and what they need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps in your position in life, maybe you need to have all this mega stuff in order to help others
Yeah.
or to promote your cause.
Right. Right.
Okay. So how did you tell us about your inclinations, your initiation into this realm?
Well, my mother was from the Virgin Islands. And she would tell us when we were kids that our great grandmother practiced voodoo.
Okay.
and that you would hear the drums at night on the island, and her grandmother would well, it would have been her mother, be my grandmother, would be gone. She would be gone up into the hills for whatever circle they were doing,
Mm.
which, I mean, that just intrigued me. It just
Yes.
intrigued me right from the get-go. And then my other sister and I, we loved to watch things like Chiller Theater.
Oh,
And,
Chilly Billy.
oh, yeah. Saturday night, that was the big deal for us when we were kids. You know, getting in, mom and dad be out, and we'd be in their king size bed, and we'd be watching Chiller Theater. So, of course, you saw all the kind of spooky stuff there, and then the Twilight Zone
Sure.
and Thriller with Boris Karloff. And so all that kind of stuff just always really, really interested me. And at the time that I was growing up, there wasn't all these resources like there are today. I mean, there were no stores here for, any kind of witchcraft or anything like that. Really wasn't even, nobody even really thought about it. But I always laugh and say I was goth before it was goth, because I always dressed all in black,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that was just my thing. And it was kind of funny when the goth movement came around. I was kind of like, wow, I was doing that a long time ago. But so it
You were a
was,
trendsetter.
yeah. Well, my sister says I'm always 10 years ahead. If I could only just catch up and catch that trend before it's too late. I bought a deck of tarot cards, and to be honest with you, I cannot remember where I even got them,
Mm-hmm.
because I know, like I said, back in that day, there was not a whole lot of places that you could get that kind of thing. And I started messing with the tarot cards. And of course, at that time, the Ouija boards were still readily available.
Mm-hmm.
And I experimented with that and scared the crap out of myself. And will never touch one again. And people ask me a lot of times at my shop, they're like, oh, well, do you sell Ouija boards? And I'm like, no, no. And I have a theory about that, because so many people are getting into the metaphysical.
What would you term the metaphysical, Joyce?
Well, to me, it's, the crystals. It's kind of like, I don't know, anything outside of Christianity.
Okay.
Kind of, to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, there's the yoga going on, and people are just incorporating a whole bunch of different practices
Sure.
and different sects into one, and we're labeling it metaphysical because we don't really know what else to call it. And the witchcraft goes under there too. um it kind of laps over. I think a lot of people that are actually doing what we call witchcraft, they're labeling it under metaphysical because there's still that stigma against witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd rather call themselves metaphysician than a witch. Yeah, I mean, I think it just encompasses like everything outside of Christianity.
So how does one develop the knowledge? Where does one get the training?
Well, I mean, right now, oh my gosh, online,
Mm-hmm.
there's groups that you can become a part of a coven
Okay.
on an online
Mm-hmm.
coven.
So when one thinks of a coven, one naturally gets all of their information from television shows
Right.
or from movies, okay? And all they think of is this wild sexual initiation, and then they talk about casting these horrible spells. And but what do most people associate witches with? Where do they get their power from? Darkness,
Yeah.
Satan, evil.
Well, actually, most witches do not even believe in Satan.
Could you
Um,
say that again, please?
most witches do not even believe in Satan. They don't
Okay.
acknowledge him.
Hmm.
But you do have Satanists. I mean, I'm not going to
Of
say,
course.
but
There's bunny rabbitists.
Satanists, actual Satanists, I mean, people that are real Satanists,
Hmm.
are not anything like what you see portrayed.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's people that are out there sacrificing animals and doing that kind of thing, and they're calling it a worship to Satan, but they don't know what they're doing.
Hmm.
I was always kind of a little bit afraid of the Satanists, and then I met one,
Hmm.
talked with him at length, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. I don't think I want to join that group,
Sure.
but yeah, okay,
So that's contempt prior to investigation again. And earlier we were discussing the tremendous power of fear.
right,
Tremendous power of fear. And in our world, when we talk about thoughts and feelings, and we talk about all these things, which are just as powerful as any incantation or spell, when a person believes them, okay?
Right.
In our world, sometimes we ask people to make magic inside of their heads, and we use the phrase abracadabra. So when you hear the word abracadabra, what comes to your mind, Joyce?
Abracadabra is actually very ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Very ancient. And I have on my door the abracadabra triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you start with the A and you go all the way down, and then you can read it backwards or forwards.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge protection amulet.
Right, and
Um,
what it is, it's ancient Aramaic. It's the Bible's Jesus language, and what it translates into, what I speak, I create.
right.
So what we help people do is create magic in their heads, and according to our world, we believe that the only power anything has over you is the power that you give it.
That is so true.
Say more about that.
Well, I mean, I do believe you see and hear about people that overcome cancer. They were diagnosed terminal, and 3 years later, they're cancer free and they're really enjoying their life. How does that happen? Someone else, well, you have stage one, and they're dead in 3 months. It's kind of, to me, that's kind of like you gave your power to that cancer. You gave into that fear. You didn't fight. You just accepted that that was
And fear is a fundamental emotion. Fear, in the 12 step world, we talk about fear being a corroding thread that goes throughout people's lives. And if you would, or someone would come to me and actually throw a curse on me, and I would get that afraid and believe that that thing had power over me, it would cause me harm.
sure, definitely. And that's, I mean, I think that's where that kind of power comes from because you have issues, maybe even between witches, and they feel that they're being cursed by another witch.
Hmm.
And well, because this is your belief, and you really think, that that person did throw a curse on you, even if they say they didn't, well, then yeah, you know.
When you hear the phrase "scared to death," that's true.
Hmm.
You can frighten yourself to death.
Sure, sure.
Okay. But getting back to the beginning, the whole idea of what you were talking about is connecting to the energy of the earth. Connecting to all, when you and I talked about the so hum, we are all that. The energy of the plants, the energy of the trees, the energy of every living thing.
Hmm.
The rocks are made up of energy, even though they're supposedly non-sentient and don't move. There's a lot of energy inside of those also.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, there's certain places. There's actually in Ohio, I believe it is, Serpent Mound, which is supposed to be, it is just like a pile of rocks. But from what I've been told, there's a huge amount of energy there.
Sure, and where the energy's there, and what will we do? We try to create energy. What's nuclear fusion other than creating energy?
Hmm.
So all of these things are creating energy. It's energy that lights the lights. It's energy that drives our car. It's energy that allows you and I to sit here and speak to each other and broadcast ourselves out into the ether.
Very true. Very true.
In your travels and in your life, you also provide the opportunity for people to obtain these things that you've been talking to me about. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, I mean, I just try to encourage people to follow their heart and follow their what feeds them, what makes them feel human, what makes them feel that they're not inferior, and that they can deal with things, because there's so many people today that we're losing so many people to suicide. Um,
So you're providing people with encouragement and support. And if you could cast a spell, I'm guessing your most fervent spell would be one of hope.
yes, definitely,
Is there a hope
definitely.
spell?
Not that I know of.
Well, there you go. That's our challenge to you, Joyce, is to create a hope spell for people. And if you do, I'd like to have about 50 bottles of it, please.
Okay.
But also, you provide an opportunity for people to obtain the crystals and these different types of things, which perhaps they can use as some type of enhancement, some type of aid to their life.
Right, right. I mean, you don't have to go out and spend $1 billion on tools. You don't have to at all. But I do encourage, to have a rose quartz crystal to just even meditate and think about self love. Um, have an obsidian if you feel that somebody's picking on you.
So to get that, you'd have to have a rose quartz. You'd have to have an obsidian. And I understand that you have an establishment where people can come to.
I do. Sparkledragon's Magical Emporium. And we try to help people that are just starting on their path or been on their path, and we try to just help them along the way.
So you provide some of the implements, some of the crystals, some of the stones, some of the paraphernalia, and also I would guess that you provide some knowledge and education.
We do. We do try to do that. We're also trying to incorporate a lot more classes. We did have Wicca classes there for a while. They were taught by a local coven, and they would run, I think, 12 weeks. But we're not doing those currently, and I don't know whether we'll be going back to doing them.
Would you say that the clientele is primarily male, female, a mix?
Primarily female, but we get a lot more guys than I would have thought.
Okay. So you provide the opportunity for people to open their minds up a little bit and perhaps explore some alternative methods of healing.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So when we talk about holistic wellness, we don't push away the Western, what we would call allopathic medicine. We know how important that is in cooperation with other types of healing.
Yes, definitely. And we do. We're just starting. We're providing Reiki services.
Ah, cool.
Which I am not real familiar with the Reiki, but it's becoming more and more popular. I know that, and
again, you're dealing with energy.
Yeah, I myself do a lot with the essential oils.
Okay.
I actually was trying to become an aromatherapist.
Okay.
But I still need 50 more hours of classes, and I just can't seem to do it.
Well, do you plan to live for 50 more hours, Joyce?
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. I'm trying to figure out how to live forever.
Well, we're going to ask you to do that. So if someone would want to learn more about what we talked about today, do you have a website, your address? Where would someone contact you at, Joyce?
I do have a website, which is sparkledragon.com, and the shop is here in lovely Beachview, and it is at 2120 Broadway Avenue.
Well, Joyce, you've been delightful. I'm hoping you've opened a lot of people's eyes. I'm hoping you've turned some people's minds of uncertainty and fear into a mind of awareness and a mind of knowledge. And we'd love to have you back again, and we can visit you at Sparkledragon once again. And now you'll know who's coming in the store. So until then, we offer a free prescription at the end of every episode. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we challenge you to fish without bait. And as always, do a kindness to yourself, do a kindness to another. Forgive yourself, forgive another. Namaste.
Namaste.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.